there's a moment you don't admit to anyone, not even yourself. It's when you catch your own reflection and see you're dressing, acting, living for an audience that never stops judging. Not the world at large, her, the woman. The imagined or real gaze that follows you, weighs you, determines if you're worthy of praise or scorn. It's subtle. Sometimes it looks like confidence, sometimes like a drive to impress, sometimes like quiet desperation for approval you'll never fully own. Søren Kierkegaard saw the danger in this way of living long before Instagram, before dating apps, before your life became a gallery for someone else's reactions. He called it the aesthetic life, a life of surfaces, of pleasure, of chasing moments that look good but mean nothing. You end up measuring your value by the way her eyes flicker, by the sound of her laughter, by the small, temporary victories of being noticed. It's not masculinity, it's performance. But the cost is steep. The more you build your life on being seen, the less you actually see yourself. Your choices start bending. You buy what she'll admire. You say what she'll approve. You hustle for the look, the comment, the nod of validation. All the while, your true self recedes. The real man you could become is exchanged for a mask that pleases, entertains, seduces, but never endures. Kierkegaard wasn't against beauty. He wasn't anti-pleasure. But he saw the aesthetic life as a trap, a maze where you chase novelty, variety, the thrill of the new, all while the hunger inside you grows. No matter how much you collect, it's never enough. You want her to notice, to want, to be impressed. But even when you win, the satisfaction is empty. There's always someone else to impress, a new set of eyes to chase. The world encourages you to stay in this maze. They reward you for being desirable, for having the right look, for playing the part. They want you to orbit her desires, her mood, her gaze. And most men do, confusing the approval of women with a sense of purpose, mistaking pleasure for meaning. But something in you resists. In quiet moments, the urge to break out returns. You know, deep down, you weren't born to be decorative, to collect likes, to win applause. You were born for something heavier, harder, more real. Kierkegaard called it the ethical life, a life of responsibility, of truth, of acting from what you know is right, not from what earns you the most admiration. You stand at a crossroads, keep living for her gaze or turn and face yourself. The world won't push you toward the ethical path. It's lonely, it's thankless, and it's not built for show. But it's the only road where a man becomes whole. Everything else is just costume. You don't escape the aesthetic life by accident. It's designed to keep you hooked, forever chasing the next moment of her attention, the next flicker of excitement, the next dose of praise. Kierkegaard saw it as a labyrinth built on endless possibility and shallow reward. Every new outfit, every clever line, every night spent on the hunt, it's all fuel for the same fire, the fire of needing to be seen, desired, envied. You think you're in control, that you're playing the game, winning her gaze. But slowly, you become what you chase. Your day is filled with calculations. How will this look to her? Will she smile if I say this? Touch me if I wear that? Want me if I play the role perfectly? You craft yourself for consumption, and the more convincing the performance, the less of you remains underneath. Kierkegaard saw this hunger as a sickness, one that only grows the more you feed it. The thrill of being noticed is never enough. It mutates, demands more, pushes you further from your core. And women, consciously or not, become the arbiters of your worth. Their approval turns into a drug, their gaze the currency of your self-esteem. They don't even have to do it maliciously. It's just the nature of the aesthetic game. You let yourself become an object, a decoration, a man defined by the reactions he gets instead of the actions he takes. But here's the hardest truth. The world is happy to keep you here. You're easy to manage when you're always seeking validation, easy to distract, easy to sell to, easy to discard. You were never meant to orbit her world, but to build your own. And every minute you spend seeking her gaze is a minute you lose to the emptiness inside. How do you break the spell? Not by chasing a different woman, a new adventure, or a fresh audience. That's just another loop of the same maze. The shift happens when you risk being unseen, when you choose to do what's right, not what's rewarded. The ethical life is not glamorous. It starts with a single unseen act, telling the truth, standing your ground, refusing to play the part. Responsibility begins with a moment of rebellion. The day you stop asking, "What does she want?" and start asking, "What do I demand of myself?" That's when the real man emerges. That's when you begin to escape the trap of her gaze and step into a life only you can own. There's a price you pay for every day spent chasing pleasure, every hour lived under the tyranny of her gaze. The world won't send you a bill for it. You'll pay in the currency of self-respect, courage, and the ability to look yourself in the eye. Kierkegaard saw that the longer you stay in the aesthetic maze, the less you recognize your own voice. Your boundaries blur, your promises weaken, your principles become suggestions you negotiate away whenever they threaten to cost you applause. Watch how quickly a man's word loses its edge when he lives for approval. You promise yourself you'll quit drinking, wake up early, speak honestly, lead by example. But as soon as discomfort creeps in, or the mood shifts, or a woman's eyes narrow, you fold. You say what's safe, you do what's easy. And with every compromise, your sense of purpose thins out until it's as transparent as your intentions. This is the agony Kierkegaard wrote about. The feeling that your life is happening to you, not through you. That you're stuck in a cycle of chasing, never building, never becoming. Your courage atrophies, your imagination dims, your word is just another sound in the noise. You start to believe your own excuses. That meaning is for other men, that it's enough to be liked, that being desired is the same as being respected. But something in you resists. Even as you act the part, there are moments of rebellion. A sudden shame in the mirror, an unexpected surge of anger when you're dismissed or patronized, the sick ache that follows a night spent pleasing everyone but yourself. These are not weaknesses, they are the last fires of your spirit, the warnings that your soul is slipping away. Kierkegaard saw the only way out as a leap, not a gentle drift, not a slow adaptation, but a violent break, a decision to stop living for moods and start living for meaning. This is the ethical leap. It means doing what you said you would do, even when no one is watching, even when it's hard, even when it costs you the attention and approval you've grown addicted to. It means risking obscurity for the sake of integrity. Most men will never take that leap. They'll die as decorations, well-liked but unknown to themselves, celebrated but empty. But the few who do, the men who turn their backs on the applause, who choose responsibility over indulgence, these are the ones who find the real fight, the real reward. This is where your courage is rebuilt, where your word sharpens, where your gaze stops flickering to others and starts burning with its own fire. The agony of the ethical leap is the pain of leaving comfort behind, but it's also the only path to a life that matters. Even when you choose the ethical path, when you finally tear free from the pull of her gaze and make that leap into a life of responsibility, the world doesn't celebrate. It retaliates. It sends temptation after you, wave after wave, trying to drag you back into the comfort of being seen, the ease of being desired, the hollow warmth of applause. Kierkegaard understood that the hardest part isn't the first break. It's staying broken from the crowd, staying true to yourself in a world that profits from your surrender. You make your stand. You refuse to say what she wants to hear. You act according to your word, not her mood. You choose purpose over pleasure, and for a moment, you feel untouchable. But the test never ends. You wake up and the world offers new distractions, new reasons to soften, new ways to return to the performance. Friends call you rigid. Partners call you cold. The culture calls you outdated, toxic, dangerous. It's all noise, all designed to shake your resolve and seduce you back to a life of indulgence and approval. Most men fold here. They think one moment of courage is enough. But the ethical life Kierkegaard describes is not a single act of rebellion. It's a war. Every day you are asked, will you do what's right, or will you do what's easy? Will you stand in your truth, or drift back to what's familiar? The temptation doesn't disappear. In fact, it sharpens. The more you resist, the more relentless it becomes. Look at how women test you, not because they hate your strength, but because they need to feel it's real. They will push, they will provoke, they will try to lure you back into the performance. But deep down, what they crave isn't your compliance, it's your conviction. The same is true for every circle you enter. The man who stands on principle is a threat, a challenge, a standard that exposes the weakness in everyone who's still faking it. You need to know this. Responsibility is not a finish line. It's a practice. Every day, every hour, you are invited to return to the comfort of surface living. Every screen you scroll, every flirtation, every compliment, every chance to be liked is a test. Not just of your strength, but of your will to stay awake, to stay real, to keep building something that matters, even when the world tells you you're a fool for trying. Kierkegaard's men are rare because most men want peace, not presence. They want applause, not accountability. They want her gaze, not the mirror's hard truth. But the few who keep fighting, who accept that the battle for responsibility never ends, become unbreakable. They become the men who can't be bought, can't be swayed, can't be seduced by anything less than meaning. Every day the world will tempt you to return. Every day you must refuse. Kierkegaard knew the path of the ethical man is a lonely one, especially in a world that's addicted to applause. You'll walk through stretches of your life where the room goes quiet, where the invitations dry up, where you watch other men celebrated for being less than what they could be, simply because they're easier to swallow. But that loneliness, that sense of standing alone against the current, is the proof that you're awake. Most men never get past the discomfort. They try the ethical life for a week, a month, maybe a year, then fold. They start rationalizing, telling themselves that being realistic means bending, that balance means cutting corners, that a little compromise is just being human. And little by little, they slip back into the aesthetic life, the game of being seen, the habit of chasing what pleases instead of what's true. But you, the one who holds the line, who chooses what's right when no one's watching, you begin to see something else. At first, it's just a flicker, a quiet respect for yourself that no one can give or take away. You look in the mirror, and for once, you don't see an actor rehearsing for her approval. You see a man who's become his own audience. And slowly, others begin to notice. Not everyone, not most, but the few who matter, men on the same path, women who crave something real, friends who are tired of pretending, are drawn to you. You become a lighthouse in the fog, the man who can be counted on, the standard. Brotherhood isn't built on easy comfort. It's built on the hard ground of shared values, of men who have been through the fire and still choose the truth. It doesn't mean you're perfect or above temptation, or never feel the ache for approval. It means you answer that ache differently. You stop chasing the gaze that never satisfies and start building a legacy that can't be erased. You learn that real love, love worth keeping, love that doesn't demand a mask, only finds you when you refuse to settle for being an ornament, when you risk being misunderstood in order to be real. Kierkegaard never promised the ethical life would feel good. He promised it would be worth it. The world's rewards are fleeting. A night, a compliment, a spike of dopamine that vanishes in the morning. But what you build by living for your own approval, by taking responsibility for who you are, not just what you appear to be, lasts. It shapes the way your children see you, the way your brothers lean on you, the way your woman trusts you, not because you're easy, but because you're unbreakable. This is where it all converges. The hunger, the rebellion, the battles you fight behind your own eyes every single morning. You've spent years, maybe your whole life, tuning yourself to the frequency of someone else's desire. Always a little on edge, wondering if she's watching, if you're winning, if you'll finally get the nod, the text, the warmth of approval that never lasts. You've lived for the gaze, worn the mask, danced the steps, even as your soul quietly ached for something heavier, something real. But the moment arrives when you can't keep pretending. You see it in yourself, the fatigue, the frustration, the sense that you're living in the shallow end of your own life. The aesthetic life, Kierkegaard's labyrinth of pleasure and performance, offers every distraction except the one thing you need, purpose, and you're done starving for it. This is the ethical leap, not a change of clothes, not a different crowd, but a new way of moving through the world. You start asking harder questions. You stop chasing every mood and begin to build your code, your own rules, your own standards. You stop apologizing for being a man who wants something deeper than praise. You stop shrinking to fit the script she wrote for you, or the one you wrote for yourself out of fear. Yes, it's lonely at first. Yes, you lose some friends. Yes, women might call you difficult or arrogant or too much. That's the tax you pay for becoming solid. But then the world changes around you. You stop attracting chaos. You start attracting men who want to build, not just consume. Women who want a man with roots, not just charm. You start to feel the weight and the freedom of being responsible for your own life, and the relief of not performing for anyone but yourself. Kierkegaard didn't write for the men who wanted applause. He wrote for the men who would risk being misunderstood to build a life of meaning. The ethical life isn't for everyone. It's for the few who are tired of the maze, tired of the games, tired of starving on compliments and wanting substance. So here's your invitation. Let the rest chase her gaze. You walk a different road, step off the stage, lay down the mask. Build your life in a way you can respect, even if no one else notices. Be the man who chooses responsibility, who stands alone, who risks loneliness for the reward of real brotherhood and legacy. And if you're ready to stop living for the audience, join this tribe. Drop your thoughts below, your struggle, your rebellion, your code. Subscribe if you're building a new standard. Share this with a brother who's tired of being a background character in his own story, because the world has enough men chasing approval. What it needs, what it's starving for, are men who build, who lead, who live for something that can't be seen, only felt. Make the leap, leave the gaze, build your legacy.